I trusted my son, came to his mansion to watch his dogs. But what I found, a folder with my name, ripped my heart to pieces with his unthinkable betrayal. I stood in the middle of my son Daniel's sprawling Seattle mansion, feeling like a stranger in a world of polished marble and cold glass. At 70, I, Margaret Thompson Maggie to my friends, had built a quiet life in my Tacoma apartment, surrounded by history books and faded photographs. This place, with its 10-foot ceilings and abstract art that looked more like splattered paint than masterpieces, belonged to Daniel and his wife, Laura. They'd asked me to watch their 3 dogs, Max, Bella, and Duke, while they jetted off to Hawaii for their 20th anniversary. 2 weeks, they said. Just keep the dogs fed and the house tidy, Mom. Relax, Mom. It's just a house, Daniel had chuckled, his hand on my shoulder, that boyish smile still familiar after all these years. But it didn't feel like just a house. Laura's sharp instructions echoed in my mind. Don't touch the thermostat. Use coasters. Keep the dogs off the white leather couches. I glanced at the gleaming kitchen island, afraid my coffee mug might leave a ring on its flawless surface. Max, a wiry terrier, had already shredded one of my slippers, and Bella, a golden retriever, was eyeing the backyard like it was her personal playground. Duke, the hulking Great Dane, leaned against my leg, nearly knocking me over. Easy, big guy, I murmured, patting his head. Outside, the manicured lawn stretched toward Lake Washington, its waters glinting under the spring sun. It was only day 3, and already I felt out of place, a retired history teacher dwarfed by my son's world of wealth. Little did I know, something far darker was hiding in this perfect home, waiting to unravel everything I thought I knew about my family. By the 3rd morning in Daniel and Laura's Seattle mansion, I, Margaret Thompson Maggie to those who know me best, had settled into an uneasy rhythm. The sprawling house, with its gleaming marble floors and cold, modern elegance, still felt like a stage set I didn't belong on. Max, Bella, and Duke, the trio of dogs I was tasked with watching, had other ideas about my carefully planned day. As I sipped my coffee from a delicate porcelain mug, Laura's guest china, not the everyday stuff, I gazed out at the manicured backyard stretching toward Lake Washington. The spring sunlight danced on the water, a serene contrast to the chaos about to unfold. It started with Bella, the golden retriever, who decided the living room was her personal racetrack. Bella, slow down, I called, setting my mug on the glass coffee table, already wincing at the thought of leaving a mark. She ignored me, her tail wagging like a metronome, and barreled straight into a side table. A crystal vase, probably worth more than my monthly pension, teetered, then crashed to the hardwood floor. Water spilled everywhere, shards of glass glinting like tiny daggers. My heart lurched. "Oh, Bella, what have you done?" I muttered, rushing to her side. She looked up, unrepentant, as Max and Duke joined the commotion, barking wildly. I grabbed a towel from the kitchen, my hands shaking as I knelt to mop up the mess. Laura's voice echoed in my head. "Keep everything spotless, Maggie." Asterisk. The water had spread fast, seeping across the floor and under the door to Daniel's home office, a room they'd told me was off-limits. "Great," I sighed, pushing the door open. The office was a shrine to Daniel's success. Polished mahogany desk, framed finance awards, a wall of bookshelves that screamed wealth. But the water had found a path, trickling beneath the massive bookshelf along the far wall. Frowning, I ran the towel along the base, expecting to sop up the spill. Instead, my fingers brushed a gap, a sliver of space where the shelf didn't quite meet the wall. "That's odd," I said aloud, my history teacher's curiosity prickling. I pressed harder, and the bookshelf gave a soft click, shifting an inch. My breath caught. This wasn't just a shelf, it was a facade. Heart pounding, I pushed again, and the entire unit swung outward, revealing a narrow alcove hidden behind it. Dust motes danced in the sliver of light, and there, propped against the wall, was a navy blue folder, its leather cover embossed with my name, Margaret Thompson. Below it, a photograph from Daniel's last birthday dinner. My face smiling, unaware, pinned to the folder like a target. "What in the world?" I whispered, my voice trembling. I hesitated, my hand hovering over the folder. This was Daniel's private space, his secrets. I was here to watch dogs, not snoop. But my name, my face, it felt personal, urgent. My fingers closed around the folder, its weight heavy with promise and dread. I eased it out, careful not to disturb anything else, and carried it to Daniel's desk. The elastic band snapped as I opened it, revealing a stack of documents that made my stomach drop. The first page was a will, dated 6 months ago, from my great-uncle, Henry Caldwell. I hadn't seen him in years, not since my husband's funeral a decade ago. The words swam before my eyes. To my sole surviving heir, Margaret Eleanor Thompson, I bequeath my estate, valued at approximately $6 million, including Caldwell Manor in Oregon and its historical collection. Asterisk, $6 million. A manor. A collection. My mind reeled. I'd lived frugally on my teacher's pension, worrying about medical bills, never dreaming of such wealth. Why hadn't Daniel told me? I flipped to the next page, a letter from a Portland law firm, addressed to Daniel, asking him to contact me about the inheritance. His handwritten note scrawled in the margin chilled me. "Mom can't know yet. Laura's handling it. Asterisk." Handling what? My pulse raced as I dug deeper, each document tightening the knot in my chest. A timeline, in Laura's precise handwriting, outlined steps. Secure Maggie's ID, forge signature, hire Clara Bennett for impersonation. Clara Bennett, a name I didn't know, but one that screamed trouble. I sank into Daniel's chair, the folder trembling in my hands. My son, the boy I'd raised to value honesty, had hidden this from me. Why? What could drive him to keep such a secret? The dogs barked outside, pulling me back to the moment. I glanced at the photograph on the folder, me, smiling at Daniel's birthday, trusting my family completely. Now, that trust felt like a lie. I closed the folder, my resolve hardening. Whatever Daniel and Laura were planning, I wouldn't let it stay hidden. I needed answers, and I needed them now, before this secret tore my world apart. The navy blue folder lay heavy in my hands, its contents burning like a fuse ready to ignite my world. Sitting at Daniel's mahogany desk in his off-limits Seattle office, I flipped past the will from my great-uncle Henry Caldwell, my heart still racing from the revelation of a $6 million estate. The next document stopped me cold, a certified letter from Edward Marshall, a Portland attorney, dated 3 months ago. It was addressed to Daniel, asking him to contact me about my inheritance. His response, scribbled in the margin, was a knife to the chest. Asterisk. Mom's not to be told. I'll handle it. Asterisk. My breath hitched. Handle it? What did that mean? I turned the page, and the truth unfolded like a nightmare. A handwritten note in Laura's sharp, meticulous script outlined a plan that made my blood run cold. Block all calls from Oregon area codes. Secure Maggie's driver's license done. Forge power of attorney done. Hire Clara Bennett for impersonation scheduled. Asterisk Clara Bennett. The name was unfamiliar, but the words impersonation and forge screamed betrayal. My own son, Daniel, and his wife, Laura, weren't just hiding Henry's will, they were plotting to steal it. I found a receipt tucked in the folder. Clara Bennett, identity consultant, $5,000 retainer. Asterisk. A grainy photo showed a woman about my age, her silver hair styled like mine, practicing my signature. Why, Daniel? I whispered, my voice breaking in the silent office. The dogs, Max, Bella, and Duke, barked faintly outside, oblivious to the storm raging within me. I dug deeper, finding a timeline. Asterisk the 15th of March obtained Maggie's ID copy. The 1st of April, Clara begins training. The 10th of April, Portland meeting to claim estate. Asterisk. My eyes widened. The 10th of April was tomorrow. They weren't in Hawaii celebrating their anniversary. They were in Portland, setting up this fraud. A forged power of attorney, bearing my signature but not my hand, stared back at me. Next to it, a photocopy of my driver's license, reported lost last month, and a bank statement for an account in my name I'd never opened. My hands trembled as I pieced it together. Daniel and Laura planned to have Clara Bennett pose as me, claim Henry's estate, and siphon off millions before I even knew it existed. The manor in Oregon, the historical collection, my legacy would be gone. I leaned back in Daniel's chair, the weight of betrayal crushing me. I'd taught him integrity, sat up nights helping with homework, cheered at his graduation. Was this the man he'd become, driven by greed? Or was Laura the mastermind, her obsession with status pushing them to this? I needed answers. I grabbed my phone, hands still shaking, and searched for Edward Marshall's law firm. The website confirmed his office in Portland, 4 hours away. Marshall and Associates, how may I help you? A crisp voice answered after 2 rings. I need to speak with Edward Marshall, I said, forcing my voice steady. It's about Henry Caldwell's estate. This is Margaret Thompson. A pause. 1 moment, please. The line clicked, and an older voice came on. Miss Thompson? This is Edward Marshall. We've been trying to reach you for months. Trying to reach me? I echoed, my voice sharp. Your letters went to my son, Daniel. He never told me. Silence stretched across the line. That's highly irregular, Marshall said, his tone grave. Daniel informed us you were unwell, that he'd handle communications on your behalf. Unwell? I was in perfect health, walking 2 miles daily in Tacoma. Mr. Marshall, I said, my words clipped. I'm fine, but I've just found documents suggesting Daniel and his wife are planning to have someone impersonate me to claim my inheritance. A rustle of papers. This is serious, Miss Thompson. Can you come to Portland? We have an appointment scheduled tomorrow, with someone claiming to be you. My heart pounded. Tomorrow. They were moving fast. I'll be there, I said, my resolve hardening. But I need to know what I'm walking into. Marshall's voice softened. Bring identification, driver's license, passport, anything official. We'll verify your identity and stop any fraud. Can you leave tonight? I glanced at the folder, its contents a ticking bomb. Yes, I said. I'll drive first thing in the morning. Hanging up, I stood, the office's sterile luxury closing in around me. Max scratched at the back door, whining. I let the dogs in, their chaos a brief distraction. As I fed them, my mind raced. Daniel and Laura thought I was just a retired teacher, too trusting to notice their scheme. They were wrong. I'd spent decades teaching history, piecing together stories from fragments. This was one puzzle I wouldn't let them solve for me. Tomorrow, in Portland, I'd face the truth no matter how much it hurt. The navy blue folder sat on Daniel's desk like a silent accuser, its contents forged signatures, a stranger's name, Clara Bennett, and a plan to steal my inheritance burning holes in my heart. I stumbled out of the office, the sterile luxury of the Seattle mansion closing in like a vice. The dogs, Max, Bella, and Duke, were sprawled across the backyard, chasing shadows in the fading spring light, oblivious to the wreckage of my trust. I sank onto the white leather couch in the living room, Laura's warning about keeping it pristine forgotten. My hands clutched a faded photo album I'd brought from my Tacoma apartment, its pages a lifeline to a time when family meant safety. I opened it, my fingers trembling, and there was Daniel, 5 years old, gap-toothed and grinning, holding my hand at a 4th of July picnic by Lake Washington. Another page. Daniel at 16, serious-eyed, helping me grade history papers after my husband's death. I'll always take care of you, Mom, he'd said, his voice steady, promising a future I believed in. I traced his young face, tears blurring the image. Was that boy gone forever? Had greed or Laura's influence erased the son I raised? I flipped to a letter tucked in the album, written in Daniel's teenage scrawl after a fight we'd had. Dear Mom, I'm sorry. You're the best. I'll make you proud someday. Asterisk. My chest tightened, a sob breaking free. Oh, Daniel, I whispered. How did we get here? The weight of his betrayal was unbearable. A physical ache that rooted me to the couch. $6 million. A historic Oregon manor. A collection of American artifacts all meant for me, hidden by my own son. He'd forged my signature, stolen my identity, lied about my health to Edward Marshall. The Hawaii anniversary trip was a sham, a cover for their scheming in Portland. I pictured Laura, her perfect smile masking desperation, orchestrating this fraud. But Daniel, he was my flesh and blood. How could he look me in the eye at his birthday dinner, laughing over cake, knowing he was planning this? I stood, pacing the living room, the broken crystal vase still scattered across the floor from Bella's chaos. The mess felt like a mirror of my life shattered, irreparable. I stopped at a framed photo on the mantel. Me, Daniel, Laura, and Sophie, my granddaughter, at Christmas last year. Sophie, with her bright eyes and passion for history, was at the University of Washington, unaware of her parents' deceit. Would this destroy her too? I clutched the frame, my knuckles white. I raised you better, I said aloud, my voice cracking with anger and grief. The dogs barked outside, Duke's deep howl cutting through the silence. I wanted to scream, to demand answers, but Daniel was 4 hours away, plotting with a stranger to erase me. The pain was a tidal wave, drowning every memory of love. I sank back onto the couch, the album slipping to the floor. My life as a history teacher had been about uncovering truths, piecing together stories from dusty archives. But this truth, my son's betrayal, was a wound I couldn't catalog or shelve. I closed my eyes, seeing Daniel as a boy, reading history books with me, asking about the revolution. Had I failed him? Had I missed some sign that led to this? The questions tore at me, each one a fresh cut. But something shifted, a spark of resolve flickering through the despair. I couldn't let this break me. I'd taught students to face hard truths, to stand up for what's right. Daniel and Laura thought I was a naive old woman, too trusting to fight back. They were wrong. I picked up the phone again, staring at Edward Marshall's number. Tomorrow, I said softly, my voice steadying. Tomorrow, I'll face them. I gathered the navy blue folder, its weight now a weapon. The dogs needed feeding, the house needed tending, but those could wait. I had a 4-hour drive to Portland ahead, and a truth to reclaim no matter how much it hurt. The navy blue folder lay tucked in my purse, its secrets heavier than the Seattle rain clouds gathering outside. I stood in Daniel and Laura's pristine kitchen, the dogs Max, Bella, and Duke sprawled across the tiled floor, their snores a faint comfort after the storm of betrayal that had torn through me. My tears had dried, replaced by a steely resolve. Daniel, my son, and his wife Laura thought they could erase me, replace me with a stranger named Clara Bennett to steal my $6 million inheritance from great-uncle Henry Caldwell. They were wrong. I'd spent 30 years teaching history, piecing together truths from faded letters and forgotten journals. This was one truth I'd fight for. I moved swiftly, my hands steady despite the ache in my chest. The clock read 6 p.m., and Portland was a 4-hour drive south. Edward Marshall, the attorney, had urged me to come tonight. But the dogs needed care, and I needed a plan. I grabbed a notepad from the kitchen counter, jotting down essentials. Driver's license, passport, social security card, the navy blue folder. You three behave, I said to Max, Bella, and Duke, pouring extra kibble into their bowls. Their eager tails wagged, oblivious to the battle ahead. I scribbled a note for the dog walker, Jenny, who'd arrive at noon tomorrow. Family emergency, back by evening. Please feed the dogs. Asterisk. I taped it to the fridge, my handwriting as neat as ever. A teacher's habit unbroken even now. Outside, The spring dusk cast long shadows across the manicured lawn, Lake Washington shimmering faintly in the distance. I slid into my old Honda Civic, the car a stark contrast to Daniel's sleek BMW parked in the garage. The engine sputtered to life, and I pulled onto the quiet street, my mind racing faster than the speedometer. They underestimated me, I said aloud, my voice firm in the empty car. They thought I'd stay quiet, tending dogs while they stole my future. The thought of Clara Bennett, practicing my signature, wearing my likeness, fueled my anger. But beneath it, the pain lingered Daniel's childhood promise to make me proud. Now a bitter memory. The highway stretched south, I-5 cutting through the Pacific Northwest's green hills. I kept the radio off, the silence sharpening my thoughts. Edward Marshall's words replayed. Someone claiming to be you is meeting us tomorrow. Asterisk. Tomorrow was the 10th of April, the date scrawled in Laura's timeline. I gripped the steering wheel, my knuckles white. 4 hours to Portland. 4 hours to face the son who'd betrayed me. I pictured Daniel's boyish smile, the one he'd flashed at his birthday dinner, now tainted by the lie of their Hawaii trip. Laura's precise handwriting haunted me. Mom can't know. Asterisk. How long had they planned this? Had every hug, every call, been a performance? Halfway through the drive, I stopped at a rest area near Olympia, the air cool with the scent of pine. I checked my phone, no messages from Daniel or Laura. Good. They didn't suspect I'd uncovered their scheme. I called Edward Marshall again, needing to confirm details. Miss Thompson, he answered, his voice calm but urgent. Are you on your way? Yes, I said, standing beside my car, the folder clutched tight. I'm about 2 hours out. What happens when I get there? We'll use a private entrance, he replied. There's a conference room with a one-way window. You can observe the meeting without being seen. Bring every piece of ID you have. I will, I said, my tone resolute. But Mr. Marshall, I need this handled discreetly. Daniel's my son, despite everything. Understood, he said softly. We'll protect your interests and your family's privacy as much as possible. Back on the road, the lights of Portland appeared on the horizon, a city of bridges and history nestled against the Willamette River. My mind drifted to Henry Caldwell, the reclusive great-uncle I barely knew. At my husband's funeral 10 years ago, he'd pressed my hand and said, "You've got a historian's heart, Maggie. Don't let it go to waste." I hadn't understood then, but now, his will, his trust in me felt like a call to action. The manor, the artifacts, the $6 million weren't just wealth. They were a legacy I'd been chosen to protect. I pulled into a motel lot near Portland's downtown at 10 p.m., too late to meet Marshall tonight. The room was small, its faded wallpaper a far cry from Daniel's mansion. I sat on the edge of the bed, the navy blue folder open before me. I reread the forged power of attorney, the stolen driver's license, Laura's chilling note. Each word was a fresh wound, but also a spur. I wasn't just a retired teacher, a dog-sitter they thought they could fool. I was Margaret Thompson, keeper of stories, and I'd spent a lifetime teaching kids to face the truth. Tomorrow, in that law office, I'd face mine. Daniel and Laura would learn they'd misjudged me, and whatever came next, confrontation, heartbreak, or justice, would start with me standing tall. The Portland morning was crisp, the Willamette River glinting under a pale April sun, as I stepped through the private entrance of Marshall and Associates. My purse, heavy with the navy blue folder and my identification, felt like a shield against the betrayal waiting beyond the one-way window of Edward Marshall's conference room. I'd driven 4 hours from Seattle, leaving Daniel and Laura's mansion and their dogs, Max, Bella, and Duke, behind. My heart steeled by the truth I'd uncovered. They thought they could replace me with Clara Bennett, a hired imposter, to claim my $6 million inheritance from great-uncle Henry Caldwell. Today, in this law office, I'd prove them wrong. Edward Marshall greeted me, his silver hair and kind eyes calming my nerves. "Miss Thompson," he said, guiding me to a chair facing the mirrored glass. "You'll see and hear everything, but they won't know you're here." The conference room beyond was elegant, with polished oak walls and leather chairs, a stark contrast to my modest Tacoma life. My pulse quickened as the door opened. Daniel entered first, his charcoal suit crisp, his confident stride masking the lie he carried. Laura followed, her designer dress immaculate, blonde hair pinned in a sleek updo. Then came Clara Bennett, her silver hair styled like mine, her cardigan and skirt eerily mirroring my own. She'd studied me well, down to the way I tilted my head. My stomach churned. Had Daniel fed her details from our family dinners, our quiet moments? A young attorney, Mr. Pearson, rose to greet them. "Mrs. Thompson," he said to Clara, his tone professional. "A pleasure to meet you. Mr. and Mrs. Thompson, thank you for accompanying your mother." Daniel nodded. His smile practiced. "Of course," he said smoothly. "Mom's been anxious to finalize this." Clara sat, her posture mimicking mine, and pulled forged documents from a purse that could have been my own. "Here's my driver's license and passport," she said, her voice catching my faint New England lilt. I gripped the armrests, my nails digging into the leather. They were stealing my name, my legacy, right before my eyes. Pearson examined the documents, nodding. "Everything seems in order. Mrs. Thompson, you're here to claim the estate of Henry Caldwell, valued at approximately $6 million, including Caldwell Manor and its historical collection." Clara smiled modestly, just as I might have. "It's overwhelming," she said. "Henry and I weren't close. This was such a surprise." Laura leaned forward, her eyes sharp. "A fortunate one," she added, her smile tight. I wanted to scream, to shatter the glass between us. Instead, I watched, my breath shallow, as Pearson flipped open a file. "One final verification," he said, his tone neutral. "Mrs. Thompson, what was the book Henry gave you on your 16th birthday? He noted it sparked your love for history." My heart lifted. It was Common Sense by Thomas Paine, a gift that shaped my career. Clara hesitated, glancing at Daniel, who gave a subtle nod. "I believe," she said, "it was The Great Gatsby. Henry knew I loved Fitzgerald." Wrong. Utterly wrong. I leaned forward, my anger flaring. Pearson made a note. "And one more," he continued. "What was your childhood pet's name? Henry mentioned it in a letter to you." I'd never had a pet, allergic since I was a girl. Clara didn't flinch. "Muffin," she said confidently. "A tabby cat." Edward Marshall, beside me, scribbled on his pad. "That's enough," he whispered. "They've failed the test." My hands shook, not with fear but with fury. They'd built a lie so elaborate, so cruel. It mocked every moment I'd loved Daniel. Pearson stood. "Please wait here. I need to consult Mr. Marshall." As he left, Daniel leaned toward Clara. "You did great," he murmured. "Just a few signatures and it's done." Laura hissed. "Those questions weren't in the plan, Daniel." He waved her off. "It's fine. The documents are perfect. I'd seen enough." My heart pounded, a drumbeat of resolve. "I'm ready," I told Marshall, my voice steady despite the storm inside. He nodded, pressing an intercom. "Mr. Pearson, bring them to the main office." I stood, the navy blue folder in hand, and followed him down a hallway lined with legal books, their weight grounding me. The door opened, and I stepped into the room. Daniel froze, his face draining of color. Laura's eyes widened, her hand clutching her purse. Clara gasped, shrinking back. "Hello, Daniel," I said, my voice calm but cutting. "Laura, and you must be Clara Bennett." "Mom," Daniel stammered, his voice a mix of shock and dread. How are you here?" I placed the folder on the table, its embossed Margaret Thompson, glaring up at them. "I found this," I said, "hidden in your office, after Bella broke your precious vase." Care to explain why you plan to steal my inheritance? Laura's mouth opened, but no words came. Clara stared at the floor, her facade crumbling. Daniel's eyes darted to the folder, defeat washing over him. Mom, he began, but I cut him off. You hired a stranger to be me, Daniel. You forged my name. How could you? The room fell silent. The truth, a heavy blade. I turned to Marshall. I'd like a moment alone with my son. Whatever came next, I needed to hear it from him alone. The air in Edward Marshall's Portland law office was thick with tension. The navy blue folder on the table, a silent witness to the betrayal I'd just exposed. Daniel sat across from me, his charcoal suit rumpled, his confident facade shattered. Laura and Clara Bennett had been escorted out by a detective, their faces pale with defeat. I, Margaret Thompson, stood firm, my heart a tangle of fury and sorrow. The one-way window behind us reflected nothing but the truth. My son had tried to steal my $6 million inheritance from great-uncle Henry Caldwell. Now, alone with Daniel, I needed answers not just about the fraud, but about how my boy had fallen so far. Daniel, I said, my voice low but steady. Why? Why would you do this to me? He looked down, his hands clasped tightly, knuckles white. The silence stretched, heavy as the Oregon rain outside. Finally, he spoke, his voice barely above a whisper. Mom, I didn't want to hurt you. Laura, she was desperate. We were drowning. I leaned forward, my eyes searching his. Drowning in what? Money? Pride? He flinched, then met my gaze, his eyes glistening. Debt. Laura borrowed $200,000 from a loan shark to save her design firm. He threatened us if we didn't pay by next month. My breath caught. A loan shark? The words felt foreign, like something from a crime novel, not my son's life. Why didn't you tell me? I asked, my voice cracking. I'd have helped, sold my apartment, anything. Daniel shook his head, his face crumpling. Laura said we couldn't burden you. Then we got Marshall's letter about Henry's estate. She saw a way out, take the money before you knew, pay the debt, save our lives. I stared, my mind reeling. Laura's desperation had driven this, but Daniel's choice to follow her cut deeper. You thought stealing from me was the answer? I said, my words sharp. You forged my name, hired a stranger to be me. Daniel's shoulders sagged. I know, Mom. I hated it, but I was scared. I thought I was protecting you, Sophie. Our family. Sophie. My granddaughter's name jolted me. She was still in the dark, studying history at the University of Washington, unaware of her parents' deceit. I clutched the folder, my fingers tracing my name. Protecting me? I echoed, my voice rising. You lied about my health, hid my legacy. What's in this estate, Daniel? Why was it worth betraying me? He hesitated, then reached for the folder, pulling out a sealed envelope I hadn't noticed before. This was with the will, he said quietly. I didn't open it. It's from Henry for you. My hands trembled as I broke the seal, revealing a letter in Henry's elegant script. Dear Maggie, it began. If you're reading this, you've claimed what's yours. The $6 million, Caldwell Manor, and its collection aren't just wealth. They're a debt repaid. Our ancestor, Jeremiah Caldwell, built our fortune by buying Civil War-era documents from desperate families at pennies on the dollar. I've spent my life collecting these artifacts to restore their honor, and I trust you to decide their future museum, university, or community. You're the historian I never was. I sat back, stunned. The manor wasn't just a house. It was a vault of history, a chance to right old wrongs. Henry's faith in me, his belief in my historian's heart, clashed with Daniel's betrayal. You knew this, I said, my voice shaking. You knew this wasn't just money, and you still tried to take it. Daniel's eyes filled with tears. I'm sorry, Mom. I lost myself. Laura's fear, it consumed us both. I looked at him, the boy who once promised to make me proud, now a man broken by his choices. The letter changed everything. This wasn't about greed alone. It was about fear, desperation, and a family secret that stretched back generations. I stood, the envelope in hand, my mind racing. Edward Marshall waited outside, ready to guide me through the next steps. Daniel's fate, legal consequences, or a chance at redemption hung in the balance. But Henry's words gave me a new purpose, a mission beyond this pain. I needed to see Caldwell Manor, to understand the legacy I was meant to protect. Tomorrow, I'd face that truth and decide what to do with my son's broken trust. The Portland law office faded behind me as I drove toward Caldwell Manor, the navy blue folder now a map to a legacy I never expected. The Oregon hills unfolded, their spring green a quiet promise after the storm of Daniel's betrayal. I, Margaret Thompson, had chosen not to press charges against my son, demanding instead his honesty and service to the Caldwell Historical Trust. Laura, shaken, agreed to counseling, her marriage to Daniel fraying under the weight of their choices. Sophie, my granddaughter, arrived from Seattle, her eyes wide with awe at the manor's stone walls and the historical treasures within. "Grandma," she said, her voice soft, "this is what you've always taught me. History isn't just books, it's responsibility." I nodded, my heart swelling. She'd joined me, her passion for history breathing new life into Henry Caldwell's mission. I stood on the manor's terrace, the Willamette Valley stretching below, its beauty a balm to my wounds. The $6 million estate wasn't about wealth. It was about healing our family, our past, the stories stolen from others long ago. I'd transformed the manor into a research center, partnering with the Oregon Historical Society to share Henry's collection with scholars and communities. Daniel, humbled, cataloged documents, rediscovering the integrity I'd raised him with. "I'm trying, Mom," he'd said last week, his voice raw. I believed him, not because it was easy, but because trust could be rebuilt, one honest step at a time. For those of us in our later years, life's betrayals are not the end. They're chances to show our strength, to rewrite our story with wisdom. If this journey of broken trust and redemption touched you, please like, comment, and join us at The Unwanted Revenge. Share your story. Has a family secret changed your path? Your voice matters, and we're here to listen.